to Animation Pilgrimage, where we watch every single theatrically released animated film in order. I'm Sean.
And I'm Tennille.
And today we watched 1001 Arabian Nights. Did I say that correct? Or
You did.
Okay, you gotta excuse me. It's the third adaptation of this story that we've seen so far.
I find it weird that this film isn't called, like...
Mr. Magoo and the 1001 Arabian Nights.
Or even just, like, has, like, a subtitle, like... 1001 Arabian Nights featuring Mr. Magoo. Or
something
like that. To actually tie the main character into the story.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as you might have just heard us say, this is a Mr. Magoo movie. Who is Mr. Magoo?
Okay.
Fill us in, Tennille. Who is this elusive Mr. Magoo?
Mr. Magoo is a cartoon character, obviously, who started life in 1949 as a character created by the UPA.
Which is the company that made this film.
Right. And it is about the wacky hijinks of a nearsighted, mostly blind,
fairly deaf old man.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the premise. And then all of his shorts kind of build off that premise.
Hijinks ensue.
Yeah, he started off as a rather stubborn and mean-spirited main character at first. But like, as the 50s went on, he became a bit softer.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely doesn't seem like that big of a jerk in this film, for sure.
No.
He's just oblivious.
He's still really stubborn, but yeah. That's Mr. Magoo. I'll get more into him later. Why don't we talk about this film?
Okay. So, like, do you want me to do like a plot synopsis of this film?
Yeah.
Something like that. Alright, so in this film, Mr. Magoo, who is the main character, is the uncle of Aladdin. Yeah, don't worry about it. He's the uncle of Aladdin, and the evil Vizier? Yeah, it's just like a play on the name Vizier.
I guess.
Instead it's Vizier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, there's the evil Vizier, Wizzier. Wuzzy fuzzy wuzzy.
You're doing great, honey. Keep going.
Chugging through. Either way, he is the second in command of the dude in charge, the king, the sultan, and he's just taking all the money.
He's stealing all the money from the sultan from like taxes and all this. And the sultan doesn't realize this and he thinks his country's really poor. In the meantime, Magoo is really wanting Aladdin to get married because he thinks that he's like a layabout.
Or something like that. It's dumb.
Old people pressuring young people
to get married and stuff.
Yeah.
Either way, the Sultan gives the hand of the princess in marriage to the Vizier because the Vizier is the richest guy and the Sultan is massively in debt. And he doesn't realize that the Vizier is the one doing it. Soon after this, Aladdin, who doesn't want to marry any of the random bimbos that Mr. Magoo shows off.
Oof!
We'll talk about characters in a bit.
Oof!
This is just a plot synopsis because we need to jump around a lot. Either way, the plot synopsis continues with Aladdin sees the princess and they fall instantly in love.
Yep.
Because of course they do. And then the evil Vizier finds out to get ultimate power he needs to use Aladdin to get the lamp because the seventh son of a seventh son is the only one that can get into this place.
But also beware of the uncle, Mr. Magoo. Or he'll foil your plans.
Yeah, and is like, I don't care. It's like, I'll just kill him. No, use your wits. Don't try to attack him or something. Either way, he shows up and pretends to be Mr. Magoo's long-lost brother. Spoilers, it works because Magoo's an idiot and can't see. And
this whole concept is actually pretty funny if I wasn't so fed up with the movie at this point.
Yeah. This is the only scene that actually made us laugh. Or pretty much the only scene that made us laugh. And it wasn't because it was... There's only like one of these parts that actually was kind of funny, but the part that made us laugh out loud was just because the read was so bad.
We'll get into that
But we'll get into that later. Either way, the Wazir takes Aladdin out to the place and has him get the lamp and then leaves him in there. But then Mr. Magoo shows up and he stumbles and fumbles the lamp and drops it back into the well or cave. The Cave of Wonders.
But it's not called that.
It's not that, but it's the location of the lamp. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
So
Aladdin rubs the lamp, the genie comes out.
Genie helps him out.
The genie never explains any of the rules. Aladdin's just like, I wish, and like he says offhandedly,
got it.
Like, I can do that.
Either way, the genie likes him just because he made him laugh.
He's not an asshole.
Yeah. Either way, cut forward to the wedding is happening now between the Wazir and
Yasminda.
I wonder... I don't want to just compare this whole movie to the Disney version, because obviously that one doesn't exist yet, and they're both grabbing from the same source material, but it's like, oh, I see how they got this name. Jasmine, Yasminda. It's like, okay, yeah, yep, it's the same character, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's based off the same book. I'm assuming that the princess in the book has a name similar to that.
Yeah. I was just surprised that they actually used the name Yasminda.
Okay.
As compared to, I don't know, Jenny. Or anything that wasn't...
Something a little bit more American.
Yes, that, exactly.
Yeah.
Either way, moving on, hijinks ensue.
A lot of hijinks. And
you think the movie's wrapping up because the Wazir has been kicked out of the castle and Aladdin and Yasminda are getting married. No, Magoo has to be an idiot and give the lamp to the Wazir, and then he gets back in control and moves off to like this random place out in the middle of the ocean. So Magoo has to go get it with the magic carpet that he doesn't realize he has, and... Yeah,
the entire time the movie's been going on, the Magoo is a lamp salesman, and he lives next to a rug salesman, and the rug salesman has been trying to make a rug for the Wazir. But the material that the Wazir gave him is like this magic string.
Yeah, it's magic string that really likes Magoo for some stupid reason, because he sang once.
Well, for no reason. Just really likes him.
Essentially no reason. Really likes him, so it just does whatever Magoo wants and tries to always get away. And Either way, Mr. Magoo shows up, more hijinks ensue, and he unwittingly kills off the Wazir by drowning him in the ocean.
And feeding him to sharks.
Who think he tastes gross.
Yeah.
And then they all go back to the castle, and Aladdin and Yasminda finally get married. The end. This movie took way too long.
You know how long it actually is?
I'm gonna guess it was less than an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's 75 minutes.
Wow. It feels like...
Felt like we were watching this movie for forever.
Let me just put this out here right away. This is a movie that should not have been a movie. It's very clear that the guys working on this film had never worked on a full-length, feature-length film.
You say that.
What?
But most everybody who worked at UPA worked at Disney before the strike.
Oh.
We've got some history to talk about.
Wow. Okay.
So,
take it away.
You remember the Disney strike that happened around the time Dumbo was coming out?
Yes.
Okay.
The artist strike.
Yes, the artist strike.
And a lot of people either quit or got fired.
a lot of those people moved on to make UPA.
Okay.
So...
They're a little salty at Disney.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a tiny smidge.
So they're going to do everything they can to not make a Disney film. Maybe?
Sort of.
Because it kind of feels like it.
Yeah.
They're making cartoons. They're not making hyper-realistic art pieces.
I mean, okay. So, a lot of the artists' resentment obviously came from, like, what they felt was unfair treatment at Disney, which, you know, is pretty accurate, pretty fair.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of special treatment going around for people who had been there longer, people that Walt felt were, like, closer to him, and, like, other artists didn't feel like they were getting the recognition they deserved. But then you have these people who, you know, were part of the strike, and then Disney's like, no, you're not coming back. And even if Disney was like, yes, you can come back, but you're going to be on an even lower rung of the ladder. And they're like, nah, we don't want that. Understandable.
We out, fam.
Yeah. So they leave, they make their own studio, and yeah, there's just kind of this resentment to the Disney idea of what an animated film has to be, because Walt obviously really, really loved and pushed for realism in his movies. Mm-hmm. He wanted the characters to have weight. He wanted he wanted the audience to feel like the characters were real, like the characters were alive.
Mm-hmm.
And these UPA guys are like, that's ridiculous. Drawings should be allowed to be drawings.
And they can be as freeform and cartoony as they want to be.
Right. Well, and the UPA artists were very heavily inspired by graphic design and, you know, the boom of like that advertising 50s commercial and modern art style that was just everywhere at the time.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
Like, this film just screams this style. I don't know what to call this style, but you know what it is when you see it.
I mean, a lot of people would look at this and probably say it looks like Hanna-Barbera. But the thing is, these were the guys that inspired Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Yeah, because Hanna-Barbera comes along later.
Well, we've already covered Hanna-Barbera. They were doing Tom and Jerry before this.
Right. They hadn't integrated this style yet. Mm-hmm. Holy crap.
And then Disney takes from these guys as well when we get into 101 Dalmatians and onward.
Wow.
I mean, these guys, for being as bitter and salty as they were at Disney, and how much they, like, weren't really that financially successful, left a huge mark on the animation industry for the time.
Yeah, they were trendsetters, yo.
Big trendsetters, and they set up, like, you can tell from watching this film, they were obviously pretty big pioneers of limited animation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very limited animation everywhere in this film.
And Warner Brothers had been doing similar stuff with limited animation, but even still, Warner Brothers, up, like, before UPA came around with Mr. Magoo, were trying to have more of a 3D, realistic
aesthetic
form
yeah.
to their cartoon characters. Even though, like, they didn't really have the budget to fully explore it the way Disney did.
Mm-hmm. UPA, for sure, just, like, cemented this idea of, like, the stylized cartoon character that doesn't need to have an exact model all the time.
Well, I mean, the whole point UPA had is that, you know, they wanted to be artists. They wanted to explore modern art, which
Good for you
makes me
guys.
so conflicted about how I feel about them as a unit pushing ideas into the animation industry, because I admire like, I admire different studios, and I like that they had an ideal of, like, we want to be doing this new modern stuff. We don't want to be doing what everybody else is doing. But at the same time, I hate it when
people are just
people
angry
build
and salty.
their model off of we don't want to be Disney. Like, I had the same problems when we were watching the Warner Brothers shorts.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a point in this movie where a fluffy,
very, very thumper-looking rabbit
shows up, and the bad guy's like, get out of here, shoot, yeah, gross.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And I think it's just, like, it's not really mean-spirited, but you kind of look at it and you're like...
Yeah, they're definitely like, Disney, ew, gross. The symbolism is there.
But it's also a rabbit. Like, it could be a jab at Warner Brothers, too. I'm not sure. But either way, it does kind of... The joke isn't funny enough by itself that it's like, this has to be some kind of jab at somebody.
There is...
To have been kept in the film. Granted, that could also be wrong because there's a lot of unfunny jokes in this movie.
I mean, the whole movie is just a gag reel that never makes you laugh.
Oh, it's just joke after joke after joke, and a few of them land, but so many of them don't that I don't even find the funny ones funny.
Yeah. I guess going back to, like, that one scene where things almost were funny.
Yeah.
Where the Wazir is pretending to be your brother Ben. He's trying to explain who he is, and Mr. Magoo is like, who are you? And he, like, lists off his name, and you're like, no, sorry, who? And then the Wazir, losing his patience, just close-up shot, screams in Magoo's face, I'm your brother Ben! I was like, okay, that was actually funny. Just like the timing of the whole shot and him screaming. And then he's like tries to calm down and like get over it.
Yeah.
Type of thing. It's like, okay, that was almost funny. The point where we actually laughed, though.
The stuff that we were laughing at mostly throughout the movie was the voice acting for Aladdin. Was so bad.
Who? Your brother Ben!
You've forgotten me. You're no good drifter of a brother. That's me.
Why, I can't believe it. It's true. How, brother? How, brother Ben, you have.
Now, let's not overdo it. And who is this fine lad? A relative of mine?
I'm Aladdin.
Golly. He never said golly, but you can imagine him just out of nowhere saying golly. Golly gee.
Well, geez, Uncle, I don't know what I'll do. I mean, he just has like line reads like that. They're so bad. And there would just be times where it's like, it would just be a close-up of Aladdin reacting to something, and he'd say a line, and Sean and I would just bust out laughing, because it's just like, oh, gosh.
Even love.
It will? Even love?
If you're rich, you can have anything in this world that you want. Anything. So you really want to be rich, don't you?
I guess so.
No one wants to make him Riri? Okay, no, this
I'm
is
gonna
fine.
be rich?
I'm gonna be rich? Wow.
I'm gonna be rich. Uncle Magoo, I'm gonna be rich. I've gotta go tell the princess. Hey kid, want to reread that line?
Maybe.
That being said,
Do this thing called acting.
acting. You were looking up what other films this guy has been in. They're all just like super, like B class or worse spoof films.
I mean, yeah. Well, the two films that immediately jumped out at me were two films that were made in the 60s, and they had the word bikini in them. And it was just
in the
like-
title.
Yeah, in the title of the movie.
And the one was very clearly just like...
Oh, I remember what one of them was, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what made me laugh so hard. The title of the movie was How to Stuff a Bikini. I was like,
Now, how to stuff a vacant bikini?
no, I think it was just How to Stuff a Bikini.
Oh. I don't know, but it's just like, wow, you know exactly what kind of movie this is going to be, and it's not going to be good.
Wow.
The other one was like Dr. Facilier, except it wasn't Facilier. It's like Dr. What's-in-his-face and the Bikini Machine. And
Yeah.
the name of it just rang out in such a way that it's like, this is just a James Bond parody.
I mean, if I had to bet
has
money,
to be.
yeah.
Like 100% James Bond parody film. So this guy was so bad at acting, he just did parody movies.
I mean, there's some good actors in parody movies nowadays, but
It's true.
but in the 60s, yeah, that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, it's like, okay, these are like, I don't know, Elvis Presley level films probably. That being said, I haven't seen any Elvis Presley films.
I have.
I'm just putting
I have.
I'm putting it out there, but I just know that he's not actually that good at acting, but he's so hot and charming that people will watch the crap out of him.
Yeah, no.
Is the idea behind the movies.
My mom and older sibling had Elvis Presley movies that they would watch a lot. I'm just like,
That man is dead. Either way,
I will say Magoo, the
Wazir.
voice actor for Magoo does a really good job playing his character.
because he's an actual comedian.
Yeah.
He's an actual comedian. I don't remember what his name is, but
Well, but the thing is, actually, that I was, and I found this out, is that he was a radio actor who was known mostly for, like, drama, and then he did the part of Magoo, and then that kind of launched his comedy career.
routine? Huh. Well, I mean, he's good at it.
Yeah,
He knows how to read this character.
yeah. And then the
The
guy
Wazir.
who plays the Wazir, Sean's like, I know this voice.
This voice is so familiar, but I know so few films from back in this time. It's like, how do I know this voice actor? Turns out he's played another villain recently in a movie we've seen. He plays the man that screams Peter Pan a lot. It's Captain Hook.
Yeah, he plays Captain Hook, and then, of course, Darling, Mr. Darling.
Oh, does he?
Well, yeah, Captain Hook and Darling are the same.
Oh, geez,
voice
now that you say
actor.
that, you're right. I didn't even...
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, I thought that was trivia everyone knew.
No.
Oh.
I mean, I should have seen that coming because it's like the doubling up of the characters. Isn't that something they do in the play itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, they double up mostly just him.
Him. Yeah.
Because it's like, they double up him and the mom. No, the mom doesn't exist. Because female characters? What
What
are
is
those?
this? What is this? Well, the whole point of the movie is that they want their mom back. Like, I guess it'd be kind of weird, you know, if she was in Neverland, even symbolically.
I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, let's get back to this movie.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's hard to
Okay.
talk about this film.
You know what I want to talk about this film?
Whitewashing?
I mean, that's a thing to talk about, but I was going to talk about the backgrounds.
We can do both.
Okay. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
This movie is whitewashed as fuck! Every single main character, except sometimes the Wazir, is very white.
I mean, Aladdin's kind of brown.
He's got a slight tan.
Yeah.
But Magoo is white, the Sultan is white, the three bimbos that he wants Aladdin to marry are very white.
I hate!
Yasminda is white, sometimes.
Sometimes.
But, like, the only character who is sometimes actually kind of a little dark, maybe, is the Wazir himself, and he's the villain.
I don't know why they chose, like, UPA artists sat down and they're like, we want to make a Mr. Magoo movie. Cool. How can we have Mr. Magoo be a main character in a full-length feature film? I know.
Let's shove him into another story.
Let's just do an adaptation of 1001 Arabian Nights with Aladdin and just
shove him in there.
Insert him into the story.
Yup.
He's not Aladdin, but he's related to Aladdin. And it just doesn't really work.
No.
At all.
He's just like this extra awkward character who has no reason being in this film.
Yeah, who's like this is one of those films that if you didn't know who Mr. Magoo was, if you came into this blind, you'd be like, why is this guy in this movie? Why is he stealing the spotlight all the time?
He messes things up. He has no reason being in this movie. It should be about Aladdin. Because, honestly, if Mr. Magoo didn't exist, this movie would play out the exact same, except we'd cut the whole final act, which was dumb and pointless. The final act being when Magoo gives the lamp to the Wazir. Mm-hmm. And then all the extra stupid fight scene after that. And again, the good guys still win, the Wazir still loses, everyone important exists.
The pacing in this movie is so bad. The highest point of tension in this film is reliant on the fact that the genie needs to be woken up.
Oh, yeah. And the genie just takes 7 hours to go through his morning routine of taking a shower and brushing his teeth and eating a sandwich.
This is the high tension point of the movie. And it's just
haha, it's a funny joke.
It's hard to explain how bad it is without watching it, because it's just the movie shows, oh no, Yasminda and the Wazir are almost married, and then it'll cut back to Aladdin. He's like, Genie, please wake up. And then it'll cut back, and oh no, the Wazir and Yasminda are almost married.
Doing the exact same thing.
And then it'll cut back to Aladdin. Genie, please.
And they do
cut
this
back, and it
4 times.
4 or 5, maybe even 6 times. It cuts back and forth.
And nothing is happening.
Oh, just...
all parties are doing the exact same joke.
Get on with it already.
Without extrapolating for that long. And that's the whole movie. The whole movie is just joke after joke where there is no tension rising or lowering because it's a comedy, and comedy doesn't have tension. Who needs tension in our movies that are full length and they're supposed to get people invested and stay in the seats and not walk out disgusted that they're sitting through something so boring?
This is movies like this are why people thought that
animation
wouldn't
garbage.
Ever... No, stop that.
Sorry.
Let me talk. No, movies like this are why people thought that a full-length feature film would not work.
And then Disney proved them wrong.
Well, because they actually know how to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
This
isn't a story.
This is a cartoon that is an hour and 15 minutes long.
It's supposed to entertain you for an hour and 15 minutes, and then you're supposed to forget it ever exists. There's not supposed to be any meaningful impact that will stick with you for days to come, except maybe 1 or 2 of the jokes that you lean over to your friend and go, I'm your Uncle Ben. And that's it. That's all this movie was trying to accomplish. And you know what? I don't think they succeeded.
There's four women in this film, and all of them are hypersexualized.
Yep. Okay, we don't know Mr. Magoo. We just don't. We've watched none of his shorts. We're probably gonna watch 1 or 2 of his shorts for this decade, but we haven't gotten there yet. But either way, a lot of these characters in this movie, to me at least, feel like they're regular characters that will show up in a lot of different Magoo shorts. In which case, they're all just playing parts in the story of 1001 Arabian Nights.
Which would excuse the whitewashing a tiny bit.
But at the same time,
If that's the case.
If that's the case, but I've never experienced Mr. Magoo, so all of these characters feel either A, pointless, or B, incredibly whitewashed. Well, they always feel whitewashed. It's just like they feel not right.
Mm-hmm. And it might seem silly to complain about the whitewashing in a film made in 1959, because, you know, there's definitely been times where it's like, I've excused Disney because of the times or whatever. But the thing is that Disney, at least for the times that they were made in, were progressive.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that brown
like
people...
most of the time. And I feel like when they weren't being progressive, we do call them out on that. Like the...
Crows?
Like the Crows we kind of excused, to be honest.
Cy and Am,
the Native Americans in Peter Pan.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
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 But, like, it is films like this, though, that make me even more grateful that Disney has lasted. And
at the very least, Disney didn't center the movie around white people in a world that's supposed to be brown people.
Exactly.
That's the big thing.
But it just helps put it into perspective when we're watching all these films that, like, people like to look back on Disney films because those are the only films from those time periods that people remember and watch. And so when they look back on them, they go, oh, wow, this love at first sight thing's, like, really tropey and kind of problematic. Yeah, well, you know, you really ought to go watch 1001 Arabian Nights because you have no idea how much better Disney pulls that off.
Oof.
Anyway, I hate the backgrounds.
Yeah, no, go on. Tell me why you hate these backgrounds. What specific element? Or is it just everything?
I really like rough animation. I like loose styles, obviously, you know. I have a rough style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this style is pulled off better in other movies. And after doing some more research on Mr. Magoo myself, I think they pull off this style a lot better in their shorts.
It's just they were trying to rush out a bunch of backgrounds for a movie that was way too long for them?
That and the fact that they have this cultural appropriation with the Middle East going on. So they're drawing stuff that they're not familiar with.
This is true.
It's an hour and 15 minutes of all of these backgrounds being very off perspective and very modern art, and I don't like it. And to top it all off, the compositions are horrible.
Oh, so bad. There's multiple shots where, like, one character's talking to another, and the one character's just standing in front of the other, and you can't see what's going on. The Sultan's yelling at Aladdin, and all we see is the Sultan's back. He's completely covering Aladdin. The only animation going on is he's flipping his arms around a little bit because he's angry.
And I know, like, a lot of it's probably due to their very limited budget, and they were trying to do what they could with a limited budget. But it's just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it's not appealing to look at, and the compositions are just so bad and muddied and unfocused. And I complain about it so much here because, like I said, I did some more research on Mr. Magoo stuff, and they have much, much stronger compositions and backgrounds in their shorts than in this film.
I mean, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's good to hear because obviously this character's been around for 10 years at this point when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
You would hope that they got better, or like they knew what they were doing and people enjoyed it enough that they decided to make a feature-length film out of the character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a disappointing product.
Yeah.
I know you said you couldn't find anything on how people reacted to this film, but I would absolutely love to know what people that actually enjoyed Mr. Magoo, hated Mr. Magoo, were like totally or like didn't carry one way or the other, how they felt about this movie going into it.
What I'm really curious about is like the common public. Like, how did they view this film?
Yeah.
Because UPA's mission statement of we want to be modern art, we don't want to be Disney. That's not, like, no general public will really understand that.
No.
Because, okay, I kind of know how, like, the art world, how not Hollywood, because Hollywood doesn't give a crap about animation, but, like, the art world feels about
art
this.
house film, I guess.
Not even that.
Oh.
That's the other end of the spectrum where they also think they're way too good for animation.
Okay, the artistic people.
Yes.
The artistic people, how they would react to a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. And to them, it was like, I mean, I can't really say anything about the movie. I don't know how they felt about the movie, but about UPA and Mr. Magoo in general, the animation community was pretty like, wow, this is amazing, obviously, because they adapted it up and stole it like hotcakes. And we're like, yeah, this is the future of animation. We need to be more graphic. They were winning tons of awards with styles like these. Mr. Magoo had several nominations and won some awards for its shorts. Disney did a very modern art short called Toot, Whistle, Pluck, and Boom that was huge for the studio, and it did really well. Warner Brothers adopted a more graphic style after UPA came around.
Yeah, wow.
You remember
Wow.
Toot, Whistle, Pluck, and Boom?
Yeah, I do, and it's just straight up this style. Holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, but
So influential.
yeah, it was really popular. And then obviously, like what I was saying earlier, Hanna-Barbera adapted this for like Yogi Bear and the Flintstones. And the Jetsons and
Everything after that.
Yeah, Huckleberry Hound.
Until it got to Scooby-Doo, and then they changed again.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't even know
Got
if
some
Scooby-Doo was the
time.
first one that came out of Hanna-Barbera of that genre. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that more whenever we finally get to that point in time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously Walt was not thrilled about, this change of style. He really didn't even want Toot, Whistle, Pluck, and Boom made, because, like, he didn't like it. And Walt was not a modern art guy. He was a...
Classical art.
I guess he's not even an artist. He's just a guy who had a good eye and a good sense for story. And what bugs me about the push for this style and all that is that I do really appreciate other styles and like other things other than Disney coming into the animation industry in America. I think that is super important. I think that
Competition is good.
yes, competition's great, and I do think that this graphic style pushed animation in a really good direction. However,
It did not work in this film. I don't think...
stop interrupting me.
Sorry.
I have thoughts. I
Okay.
need to get out.
Okay.
However, I am personally extremely devoted to character animation. And the people doing these styles, even though a lot of them came from Disney and, are fantastic artists, there's no character animation here. There's none. There's just enough to get by. But there's so many of these jokes that would have landed so much better if just a little bit more personality was put in the animation. And a lot of the character animation, or what passes off as character animation in this film and in a lot of similar films like this, is that it's relying on the character design only to sell the acting. And character design alone is not enough to pull off a mood and expression and feeling. And that's why these stories are completely flat, just like the compositions.
Oh, snap. I think you're 100% on track with that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't argue with that at all. That is very much so correct.
Which is why, and I don't want to get too much into this because, you know, we have 101 Dalmatians coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I like Sleeping Beauty, because I think, you know, Sleeping Beauty was kind of a compromise in trying to do a more graphic modern style and keep the Disney big budget film with realism and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. And there's character animation there. And it's gorgeous and wonderful. But 101 Dalmatians is even a bigger, like, look, we can do this way better, because that film is bursting with character animation. And it's way more closely styled to, like, this movie.
Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about that more when we get to 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. And obviously, like, the UPA artists did not have the budget Disney does. And a lot of their resentment towards Disney does come from, you know, like, monetary issues. Like, I'm sure that if UPA had the same budget Disney did...
The same budget, time, resources to, like...
Mm-hmm.
Because those are things you need to think about. Is like, Disney does have all the resources to give their artists time and teachers to allow them to get good at, like, all of this character animation and, like, proper anatomy and shit.
Yeah. Drawing classes and painting classes. Mm-hmm. Classes, like, to teach you how to be a master artist. And, yeah, that stuff's expensive, and UPA wasn't able to pay for that stuff. They were just artists trying to make money, and, you know, and I admire that, and I think that they could probably have made some really spectacular stuff, but, you know, money and recurring characters that are already popular make money. There's definitely some things they could have changed here that would have been so much, like, why is this 1001 Arabian Nights?
Because they...
I know I just hit, like, several talking points in a row without really going into any of them. But still, it just kind of all boils down to why they knew they wanted to make a Mr. Magoo movie. Why is it 1001 Arabian Nights? It's such a bad decision.
I can only assume it's because they had run out of ideas, because they'd already been doing this character in different scenarios for 10 years. And they're like, now's the time to do the big one. Something that takes more than 15 minutes to tell a story.
But there's so many, like, fairy tales. They
do the Odyssey. Anything.
Well, okay. UPA specifically made Mr. Magoo because they were, quote-unquote, tired of cute talking animals. Which,
okay.
Yet again, I sort of understand, but that still seems to kind of come from this elitist attitude that they had about, like, oh, well, we're making real art. Because, like...
Screw you, Mickey Mouse. Screw Felix. Screw all of you guys. We're gonna make...
Bugs Bunny.
We're old, cranky human man that can't see.
They wanted to do something new and different. So, you know, it's like, it's a cranky old man character, which was different. You know, up until this point, we hadn't had too many human cartoon characters. There's been stuff from the Fleischer Bros, and that's pretty much it. So, like, Popeye, Betty Boop. Mm-hmm. And there's been an absence there since Fleischer Bros are gone. So it's refreshing to see something new. But it's yet again, whenever other artists whenever artists put down other studios' creations, that it just rubs me the wrong way.
It's like,
because they're like,
I automatically don't like you guys as much anymore.
right.
Because you're
it's like,
dissing on other
we
companies.
don't want to do the cute animal shtick. And I'm like, well, Warner Brothers isn't doing the cute animal shtick. Yeah, they got animals, but they aren't cute. Those guys try to be like as edgy as possible 99% of the time. So I don't know what it is you're fighting against here. Like, are you just not self-aware enough? Like, or are you just being this way to like promote your studio and do it for marketing reasons? Speaking of marketing reasons, though,
Okay.
another thing about Mr. Magoo is that to market Mr. Magoo a lot in interviews and stuff, when Mr. Magoo was really popular, most everybody at the studio would be like, oh yeah, he's based on my uncle, or he's based on my grandpa, or he's based on my cousin. And so like in the 50s, there was a lot of these different things where it was like every single artist who would ever be interviewed be like, oh yeah, Mr. Magoo is totally based off my uncle. But like now, several years later, it's all kind of been confirmed that it's like, no, he wasn't really based off of anyone. He's just a character we came up with. And then the voice actor, who I want to give proper credit to, Jim Backus. Jim Backus, like, pretty much.
Or Bacchus?
Bacchus.
Bacchus? Jim.
And
Jim.
the original...
Good old Jim.
And the original writers of Mr. Magoo came up with Mr. Magoo, and he wasn't really based on anyone.
Okay.
But it's just funny. The advertising and all that. Because I guess it sells better, or at least in the 50s it sold better to tell people, you know, like, oh, you know, he's based on someone.
Totally based off this person that's completely real. They're really real.
Really, really real.
My girlfriend.
Who lives in Canada? Is the inspiration for Mr. Magoo.
Oh boy.
Oh. I've been researching this all day, and so I had feelings that were building up.
Understandable, because as you guys might have been able to tell from this review, this is the first film that we actively did not enjoy.
Yeah, I don't even kind of like it ironically, like the Sexy Bug movie, or
like Jack the Giant Killer. Johnny the Giant Killer. Because that was at least enjoyable because we watched that with patrons and like had that enjoyment factor out of it.
Well, and it's a big difference when it's a film that's made in America. Well, okay, yeah. It's a big difference when it's a foreign film that's like their first ever animation.
Animated film.
Yeah, animated film. And then like a studio who's been doing shorts for years, they know about composition, they know about these different art techniques, and they're just doing it poorly.
Yeah.
And there's already like so many other films that they can look back on and be like, oh, yes, they did that well. You see, now we can take this and make it even better.
We can learn from our competitors as compared to, no, we're not going to watch any of their crap. We're only going to make our own films and not learn a thing. Hoity-toity.
Yeah.
Either way, would you recommend this film to people to watch?
Nah, it can die in obscurity. I will say that I do kind of wish that people knew about this film a little bit more, because it is such an influential, not this film in particular, but like UPA in general.
UPA and their
so influential that it's kind of weird that nobody knows about them. It would be like if today, or okay, more like if 50 years from now,
Disney
nobody knew what Shrek was.
Oh.
And so it was just like, you're looking back on Disney films, because of course Disney will still be around. Disney is a god that will never die. And so people are looking back on Disney films going,
why did they switch to this 3D crap? It looks so bad.
Why did we go from a couple years ago, films like Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet,
Tarzan, stuff like this,
to Chicken Little. What happened?
What happened here? Shrek happened.
Shrek happened, and we'll get to that later.
We'll have to talk about Shrek happened many years from now, probably, by the time we get there in Animation Pilgrimage.
We'll be old people by then.
Probably not that old.
And I'll still be angry.
We'll never get over this Shrek anger. And now we're just teasing people.
I know.
We're just teasing people with yelling about angry Shrek things.
Yeah. I mean, apropos, really.
All right, but yeah, I agree with you. I feel like people should not watch this film, but go out and watch a Mr. Magoo short or two, just so they know the beginnings of where this art style came from, because it is so incredibly influential for the next 10 years or something, right?
Well, no.
No?
Like, this is probably hitting the low point of Mr. Magoo.
Well, I mean, this art style.
Oh, yeah.
To see the beginnings of this art style.
Yes. This art style, yeah, it affects movies for quite a while to come. And I will say that Sean and I were going to watch this movie online. We had found it, several months ago, and then we couldn't find it. So then we went on to Amazon and we're like, crap, where's this movie? And so we did find a nice physical copy.
Oh, it's actually a really nicely done collection of all of Mr. Magoo's theatrically released shorts over this 10-year span.
Yeah.
And also the actual full-length film.
Yeah.
And it's very nicely packaged and stuff, and it was $20.
Yeah, it was $20. It's got a making of the 1001 Arabian Nights. It's got an interview with Leonard Maltin. Eric Goldberg is in the making of video. He talks about UPA for a little bit. It was pretty, it's a good package set, even if it's all just Mr. Magoo. And now that I'm looking at this again, there's one more thing I need to bring up.
Okay.
On the front of this DVD case, it has one of the worst things in the movie, printed right on front, and so that's why I was reminded of it. When Mr. Magoo is on the flying carpet, he walks on the flying carpet, and it drives me absolutely bonkers because it looks so stupid.
Yeah, that's fair. Because he doesn't realize he's walking on a flying carpet flying through the air.
Yeah. It looks really dumb, and I kind of hate it.
Yeah.
So I saw that on the front of the DVD cover, and I just wanted to say that.
Okay. All right. This is almost an hour long, so we should go.
I had feelings.
You had feelings, you did.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go ahead and wrap this episode up.
Mm-hmm.
So next time we are going back to Japan, actually, and we're going to be watching Magic Boy.
Yay!
Why do I bother? Over him. I hope for the better, but the chance is slim. That boy. He used to be my pride and joy. I was so proud of that boy. I've got those why do I bother? Jockey like a father blue.